Father is right there watching all of the gore, watching all of the horror. And Jesus turns to his mother and says to the disciple as well, standing by, whom he loved, he said then to his mother, woman, behold thy son. Even on the cross, Jesus was still preaching the message about the critical importance of motherhood.
That's right. That's right.
So very important that we understand that this concept of motherhood is not just for the good days, but it's for the bad days. And those of us who recall our relationships, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the only one that can recall the days when you put your mother through some things you need not put your mother through. But your mother, she continued to love me. She continued to nurture me. She continued to groom me. She continued to love me. She continued to guide, guard, and protect me. But most of all, my mother continued to pray for me. The best blessing we could ever receive, because there were some of those moments where I'm sure in her mind she came to that conclusion, there's nothing else I can do for this boy. But she could drop to her knees and go to God in prayer. God, I can't do it, but please, you can protect him. My days are gone in terms of trying to knock some sense into his head, but God, you can knock some sense. Amen, lights. Whether we're talking about sons or whether we're talking about daughters, many of us have those examples about how mama stuck in there with us, hung in there with us. And it might not be you, because maybe you were all of that to your mom. But just think about your cousin. You know that cousin that gave his mom or gave her mom this or this. Just think about that best friend that you know had no respect for their mother whatsoever, and that mother still provided love. Amen. Go quickly. First Samuel. We come across this mother, or this woman who wanted to be a mother. This wife who already knew she was a virtuous woman. And this woman who already knew she was a virtuous wife. But she wanted something more. And so we just want to see briefly here if there are any things we can pull by way of exhortation from this episode of Hagar, as she so intently pursued God for a blessing she wanted. But notice that Hagar did not allow the deterrence and the misunderstandings of men to cause her to lose interest in that which she was pursuing. Now, first of all, Hannah was a woman that was so dedicated to God that she never maneuvered the situation to where she put what she desired before God. Amen. Hannah always knew that what she desired could only come if she was walking in unison with God. Yes. Says here, verse number 4. Or actually, we'll start at verse 3. This is 1 Samuel chapter 1, starting in verse 3. I think we said Hagar would mean Hannah. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion. For he loved Hannah, but the Lord had shut up her womb. God knows what he's doing.
He does.
So while we're feeling so afflicted, it just might be so that God can get the glory out of your affliction. There's a possibility that God could have switched this thing around and God could have afflicted the other woman, but perhaps God already knew that if he afflicted the other woman, she wouldn't give God the glory the way Hannah would give God the glory. All right. So God already knew who had the capacity to deal with what.
That's right.
Therefore he afflicted who could handle it verse 6, and her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord has shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat.
Well,
Then said Elkanah, her husband, to her, Hannah, Hannah, why weepest thou?
Right.
Now you know we've been all up and down this text, right? But we're trying to pull something out. And why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved?
Right.
Now keep in mind here, we already said Hannah knows she's a virtuous woman. Why? She keeps God primary.
Come on, man.
She already knows she's a virtuous wife.
Right.
Why? She keeps God primary. But now she wants to express and experience this ultimate concept of womanhood, which is the byproduct of motherhood.
Right.
So she's saying, I'm already a good wife. I'm already a God-fearing woman.
Right.
But now I want to be able to express the fulfillment of my character. I want to be able to manifest the fulfillment of my character. And through this particular concept, Hannah is walking hand in foot, step in step with God. Why do you say that? The God that we serve is such a great God that as he created us, or before he created us, he looked around and said, you know what? I need someone else that's not exactly on my level, because I can't do that, but I need someone that will be able to intellectually think for themselves and make decisions for themselves and make choices for themselves, so that who I am and the greatness of who I am, I can begin to share myself with others, and then my creation, we will be able to exist in communion, because the Bible tells us that the essence of God is all about love, but the essence of love is all about sharing. So now we have Hannah, who is in this particular situation. She knows her husband, she knows she's a good wife, but now there's this extra layer of manifestation that she wants to gravitate towards, and there's something else. She wants to be a woman of sharing. She wants her own child so she can share who she really is and come from the depths of her soul. She said, I already know how to love you as my husband. I already know how to love the people around me, but now I need that which is going to come from the very essence of who I am, so I can start loving that individual. But individuals around her didn't really understand what she was actually going through, but she never gave up on her pursuit.
Right.
She kept God as her primary.
Amen.
As her primary object of,
yes, Lord,
of pursuit. So she's not eating. She's not drinking. She's not a mother yet. But here's the mistake. Motherhood doesn't start at conception.
That's right.
It's a good word.
We don't have time to go to Titus 2.
It's a good word.
From the minute and the moment our girls can begin to intuit
Yes.
the training for motherhood
Yes.
is to begin. So apparently Hannah had some insight into this concept of motherhood. Perhaps there were those in her life that cared for her in such a great way. And now, because of that great caring and that great sharing, now she wants to reciprocate with her own. But some often feel, and there's some places I might not be able to go this morning or this afternoon, but there are some who perhaps feel that, no, I just become a mother overnight. Well, just because someone is now with a child, that makes them pregnant. Just because now someone has given birth to a child, that makes them with child and having gave birth to a child, but that does not make them a mother. What makes a mother is how you shepherd. What makes a mother is how you mentor. What makes a mother is how you love and how you counsel and how you guide and how you foster your children. That's what makes a mother. So Hannah is getting a little quiet. So Hannah had the right training. Therefore, she wanted to care for her child, but her husband didn't really understand that there was a need that she had that was beyond what he could give. Verse 9. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. Look at the disposition of Hannah. And she was in bitterness of soul. In other words, she was deeply pained. There is no pain that's deeper than the pain that reaches your soul. You can cut your finger, you can break your arm, you can break your wrist, you can break... That's not necessarily pain that reaches your soul. But there is a pain that's so deep that it touches your soul. Now, she had this desire for a son. Why? She wants to express the fulfillment of her womanhood. She wanted to express the fulfillment of what it meant to be a woman and what it meant to be a wife, which meant that if I could only give birth to a child, God, but she was in bitterness of soul. But look at what she did. She didn't retaliate. She didn't go to the other woman and start putting her down.
No.
She didn't go to the other woman and start ostracizing her children. No. And instead of looking outwardly, when we're running around this Christian track and we find ourselves on some hard times, sometimes instead of looking where we should, we look outwardly as opposed to looking inward. So here, Hannah knows, my husband doesn't get me. My preacher or my priest doesn't get me. I don't have a child to turn to. The other woman does not get me. But all she can do, the text says in verse number 10, and she prayed unto the Lord all the while she's crying in tears. Verse 11, she vowed a vow, said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but will give unto thine handmaid a child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life. There shall no razor come upon his head. Now, here's what's important about this concept of motherhood in the text. She's not a mother yet, but she's already moved into an agreement with God. That if you give me a child, I will give my child back to you. If you give me a son, I will dedicate my son back to you, because I know that the son that you're going to give to me is yours already to begin with, but you are going to loan him to me. But God, I want this treasure so bad that when I get him, I'm going to protect him in such a way. And the best way for me to protect my child is to give him back.
Amen.
Because God, I know you can do a much better job than I can. But understand this particular nugget in the text, that Hannah can't even talk about giving her son back to God, the son she doesn't even have.